All right, everyone, good morning. Hopefully the connection's now better. There's been some additional improvements to my signal. Doesn't look like my picture is dragging as bad as it was previously. Still not perfect though. So I'm sure you'll only hear every other word, which has been the problem as of late. I'm gonna go ahead and share this video in a post real quick. Hope everyone has had a good morning so far. I spent much of the morning doing some more gardening, putting some plants in the ground, some already established stuff. Like I said, I suspect that there will be a shortage on those for several reasons in the immediate future, partly due to fertilizer costs. And if they're a particularly fertilizer hungry plant, I think a lot of farmers are going to stray away. Looks like I keep freezing up a little bit. Gosh, I can't do two things at once on this connection, apparently. Good morning, Joe. I'm going to go ahead and close that tab out. If you guys would go ahead and smash that like button for me, that would really help me out this morning. So I spent the morning doing the things, getting a couple things in the ground, putting a couple things in pots. Hey, Rusty, how's it going? And it's something you should definitely consider because the pricing on that stuff, as I said, is going to go up simply because fertilizer costs are going to go up. And we're going to get into that in just a moment. But first, I'm sure many of you have already seen that Russia is actively working to convince other nations to shift away from the dollar. And it is now a requirement that you conduct commerce with Russia in the ruble, or you utilize a euro to ruble conversion, and you have to have a bank account in Russia as well. So they're becoming and working on becoming very resilient in their own right. And they are in a much more sustainable setup than we are, just given the fact they're still a agrarian and manufacturing based economy. They actually still make things. And that's definitely going to set them up for success on a long enough timetable compared to where we're currently at. Car parts shortages. This is something that we've talked about a little bit off and on, and people will occasionally mention this in the comments. I've recently seen more people chiming in about tires, something that I've been not actively monitoring, but just aware that the pricing has been going up. So I started to do a little more digging into this for you. So we know that used car pricing has started to surge again, and it continues to increase. Your used car right now in your driveway may in some cases be worth more than you paid for it a couple of years ago because they're simply unable to complete vehicles. We know Ford, of course, is now shipping vehicles to dealers that, for all intents and purposes, are incomplete. They'll drive, but they may be missing some features until they're able to catch up with the chip shortage, which at this point I think is pretty unlikely given the demand and the military needs. And we'll see many of these factories retasked for those purposes in the immediate future, very likely just based on what's going on. The other thing, too, is a lot of mechanic shops around the country are reporting, and they've been reporting, that it's now taking them days to get basic work done, from suspension jobs to brake jobs. And unsurprisingly, suppliers are also raising prices on the back end due to the demand and the shortages. Good afternoon, Constitutional Carpenter. Reported rubber and tire shortages. The thing I was just getting at. This is not like 40 to 70 years ago, where a lot of things were a lot more standard. Tires, bumper height, all that type of stuff. So I'm betting that certain less popular tire sizes, if this continues in the direction it's going, may end up becoming discontinued. So make sure that you use a popular wheel or rim size and can accept most tires that would be available through normal channels. I'm actually looking into that right now because there's only about 3 or 4 different options for my truck for tires, and they are exceedingly expensive. So I may end up eating the cost up front on the rims, but I'll be able to replace them with $200 and $300 tires as my truck continues to age. And from what I can find right now on the back end, tire manufacturing prices are up roughly 34%. There's a reason why the prices to the consumer, why our pricing continues to climb. Tire manufacturers are touting their business, though, of course, has been strong, and their financial reports have been very impressive as the price hikes continue. And with prices ballooning to the consumer, this, of course, as I just said, is absolutely the reason. Continental Tires has announced prices will increase in April. Goodyear and Cooper increased prices 4 times last year. Michelin, BF Goodrich, and Uniroyal reported 12% increases last year to consumers, and Michelin stated they see no end to the price hikes, reporting price increases that will actually start today. They go into effect today, per the last reports or the press releases that they put out. So I would really encourage you to work to get ahead of that. If you might need tires in the next 3 to 6 months, I don't know that it's worth putting off if you have the means to do that now. Just want to check how my connection is doing, by the way. If anyone would drop a comment to the effect of that. Seems to be holding up pretty well on my end. The USDA is now reporting light to moderate egg supply issues. And they're also reporting that prices are higher, something we've all noticed. Costco is reporting virtually all their departments are impacted by the current supply chain crisis. Pet food shortages have been a major problem over the last several years. And this situation applies to all retailers. I have noticed, though, that PetSmart has been a lot more consistent in their ability to get a lot of more in-demand or more specialty type foods. Sugar and gas are also in high demand, and Costco is having issues with these. Purchase limits have been put in place at certain Costcos on certain items, and at the pumps, if you hit a $100 threshold in certain markets, they will cut you off from being able to fill up your tank completely. Hello, Verna. How's it going? According to the National Grocers Association, many members have less than 50% of their normal workforce. From farms to retail, grocery stores, staffing problems are plaguing the supply chain. The current unspecified thing of unspecified origin that is going around is also being blamed as companies cut staffing with the mandated protocols. The USDA is reporting more soy than corn in response to the shortages. So that's something that I'll mention in a video that will hopefully be finished and wrapped up by the end of today. And we'll get more into that. But as of right now, we are seeing soy production up 4% from last year with 91 million acres planted. Corn growers intend planting 89.5 million acres, cutting nearly 200,000 acres versus soy. Take note of this. All wheat planted this year totals an estimated 47.4 million acres, up only 1% from 2021. This represents the 5th lowest all wheat planted area since record keeping started in 1919. Soybean production comprises nearly 97% of all family-owned farms. I would encourage you to take as much control as you can over your own food production. That's why I'm doubling down on what I'm doing here. And it's on a small scale, but it will give me a lot more capability as I scale this up, in addition to be able to supplement what I'm still able to get, especially as they inevitably impose purchasing limits where they find ways to restrict the amount of things we can buy. And with prices climbing dramatically as they are, it's very likely that all of us will be in a situation soon where we will have our own purchasing limits placed simply because of pricing. Good. Glad the connection is holding. And the next thing I wanted to hit on, the Strategic Oil Reserve, with 4.4 million barrels that will be dumping onto the market by the 1st of May. Now, that reserve will only last approximately 90 days. The program was started in the 1970s, a little background on this, during the oil embargo, and this is the largest release of fuel in 50 years. The fuel storage is located in Texas and Louisiana, and the supposed relief going to get might bring down fuel prices as much as 10 to 35 cents per gallon. Keep in mind that 1 million barrels only accounts for 5% of our daily oil use, and that might be the initial start of this program before they can potentially ramp it up to the 4.4 million per day. So we consume about 19.78 million barrels a day per last year's numbers. Utilizing this program for political points right before midterms could be disastrous with the current events that are unfolding around the world. And with all the discussion of the potential for cyber warfare attacks, I think we're really playing a dangerous game here because we will be completely tapped out. And even if we just have to deal with a major hurricane or storm system, but we saw how grossly impacted the system was with that pipeline cyber attack not too long ago. And we just won't have anything to pull from should we exhaust that supply chain, which is not good. It's not a good plan to use that for political points, but that's where we're at. It is partly why the system was put into place in the event that major economic damage would occur to the nation due to scarcity or prices on fuel. So it's not a completely inappropriate use, but I think when you combine it with the totality of, I think it's a bad play right now. Even though, of course, we have beyond enough capability internally to essentially become entirely energy independent. That's not something that they're really interested in pursuing at the current time, though, of course, I do find it amusing when they mentioned in the latest proposals that they want more fusion-based power here in the United States, which, of course, implies that's nuclear, by the way. Well, anyway, guys, I'm going to keep this one kind of short today. I've got a lot to get done before I head out. Make sure you keep up with what you're keeping up with. I hope that speaking about fitness, mentioning fitness, that you will get more involved in that you'll begin to do some research into your diet and things like that and take more control over your food. Hey, Joe, how's it going? If there's anything that anyone would like to chime in or talk about real quick before I dip out, please go ahead and drop that in the chat. And if you'd smash that like button, I would really appreciate it. All right, guys, other than that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. Like I said, I hope to have another video out this evening. I'm glad that my connection's holding up. I will check the replay to see. Hopefully, fingers crossed, everything's resolved now and I'm not cutting out every 3 or 4 words anymore. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. You guys stay safe out there and keep doing what you're doing and use your time wisely and enjoy the last bit of normalcy that we have left while we have it. Take care.